What if I told you that the charming gleeman, Thom Merrilin, is hiding a past full of royal intrigue, secret relationships, and political power? Behind his colorful cloak and sharp wit lies a man who once moved in the highest circles of Andor's court, and his connection to Elayne Trakand runs far deeper than you'd ever imagine. Is he her father, her uncle, or something even more complicated? Stick around as we uncover the untold story of Thom's mysterious past in the Wheel of Time. Love, scandal, and a sudden fall from grace. Thom's closeness to Queen Morgase did not go unnoticed within the political spheres of Andor, and as often happens in royal courts, his influence drew suspicion and envy. Yet it wasn't politics that forced Thom from his position, but personal tragedy. His nephew, Owen, had been born with the ability to channel the One Power, a death sentence in those days for a man. The Red Aja of the White Tower found Owen, gentled him, and left him to fade away, stripped of his magic and hope. Racked with guilt and rage, Thom turned away from courtly life, abandoning both Morgase and his place in the palace. Morgase, in turn, saw this as a betrayal. When Thom left to deal with Owen's fate, he did so without warning or permission, and when he returned, it was too late. Morgase had already replaced him with another advisor, and, believing his absence was motivated by selfishness, banished him from the court. That moment marked a turning point in Thom's life. He traded the silks of the palace for the patchwork cloak of a gleeman. But despite his apparent fall from power, his knowledge of Andoran politics and his emotional ties to its royal family remained as strong as ever. A relationship rekindled on the road. When Elayne Trakand later meets Thom on her journey with Egwene and Nynaeve, she does not meet a stranger. Even if she doesn't immediately remember or understand the full significance of his past, Thom knows her. He had watched her grow up during his years in Morgase's court. His affection for her is not merely the fondness of an old man for a young noblewoman. It is personal. He was there in her early years, watching her mature into the woman who would someday rule Andor. Though the reunion in the narrative is far removed from the splendor of Caemlyn, the emotional thread between them remains unbroken. Thom sees in Elayne not just the future queen, but the daughter of the woman he once loved. There is a protectiveness in him, a quiet but unshakable loyalty. He does not push himself into a paternal role, nor does he try to reclaim any lost status. Instead, he offers Elayne something far more valuable: unvarnished truth and unflinching support. His knowledge of court life, his understanding of how power truly functions, and his emotional investment in her success combine to make him an invaluable ally. Thom's influence in Elayne's rise to power. As Elayne's storyline progresses and she begins asserting her claim to the Lion Throne, Thom's presence becomes more than sentimental. His political acumen and grasp of the undercurrents within Andoran nobility prove to be assets she cannot do without. Thom doesn't act as her puppet master, but he becomes an essential part of her strategic circle, able to read a room, navigate egos, and, when needed, disarm a tense negotiation with a well-placed story or veiled truth. In a land torn by uncertainty, he helps Elayne step into the role she was born for, not as a girl thrust into chaos, but as a ruler forged by both fire and guidance. What makes Thom's influence even more compelling is the contrast between him and the rest of Elayne's political world. Where nobles posture and scheme, Thom speaks with clarity. Where others seek leverage, he offers perspective. He operates from a place of emotional intelligence rather than ambition. And in a kingdom where trust is a rare currency, Elayne places a quiet but deep trust in him, a decision that ultimately aids her survival and ascension. The Unspoken Bond. Though Elayne and Thom never explicitly address the full weight of their shared history, it hums quietly beneath their every interaction. There's a mutual recognition, an understanding that what they share is not forged in the fires of recent events, but rooted in older loyalties and love. Thom never says he left the court for love or guilt. Elayne never asks why he vanished. But they both seem to understand. The silence between them speaks louder than any explanation could. Thom's knowledge of Elayne's family is not political trivia or learned secondhand gossip. It is lived experience. He knew her mother as a lover, admired her strength as a queen, and watched Elayne grow with eyes full of hope. That history can never be erased, no matter how far he travels or how many tales he sings. And though he never reclaims his role in court, Thom's loyalty to House Trakand remains unwavering until the very end. A love that redefined allegiance. What began as mutual admiration soon evolved into something deeper. Following the death of Morgase's husband, Thom Merrilin became not only her most trusted courtier but her lover. Their relationship was known within the court, though rarely spoken of outside it. Thom, who was often viewed as flamboyant and unpredictable by outsiders, proved to be a stabilizing force at Morgase's side. His wit and worldly experience complemented her strength and ambition, and for a time, he was as close to power as any man could be without a crown. This romantic connection to Queen Morgase naturally drew Thom into the lives of her children, especially Elayne. Although he was never her stepfather in any official capacity, his presence in the royal household gave him a kind of honorary familial standing. He knew Elayne not as a political figure or a member of a prophecy, but as a young girl growing up within the formidable legacy of Andor's line. His affection for her was born out of familiarity and a protective instinct, one that would endure long after he left the royal court. A departure marked by tragedy. Thom's exit from court life was not voluntary. His involvement with the royal family was severed abruptly and painfully after the death of his nephew, Owen. Owen had been a male channeler, born with the ability to touch Satan, the male half of the One Power. When the Red Aja of the Aes Sedai found out, they gentled him, cutting him off from the source, and left him to die, abandoned and shamed. Thom blamed himself for not protecting Owen and turned his rage against the White Tower. In the chaos that followed, he left Morgase in the court, abandoning not just power and prestige, but also the woman he loved and the children he had come to care for. Morgase, hurt by what she perceived as betrayal, banished him officially from the court. Thom's absence left a bitter wound in the palace. For Elayne, his disappearance may have been less catastrophic than her mother's, but it was no less confusing. The man who had once been a fixture in her life was simply gone, and in the years that followed, his name faded from the royal narrative. Reuniting on the road. When Thom encounters Elayne again, many years later, it is not in the golden halls of Andor, but amidst danger, prophecy, and revolution. He meets her not as a bard of the court, but as a companion of fate, as the world begins to spiral toward the last battle. Despite the passage of time, the bond between them reawakens almost instantly. Elayne recognizes in Thom not just a political relic from her mother's court, but a piece of her own history, a connection to a past that shaped her, even if she didn't fully understand it as a child. For Thom, Elayne represents more than just memory. She is a living link to Morgase, a woman whose shadow he never fully escaped, and a legacy he once tried to run from. Yet, rather than flee again, Thom leans into this relationship with quiet loyalty. He becomes not only a source of wisdom, but also a fierce protector, risking his life multiple times to ensure Elayne's safety as she navigates her own path toward queenship and destiny. Not her father, but something just as meaningful. Over the years, many fans have speculated about the nature of Thom's bond with Elayne. Given his history with Morgase and the familial tone of their interactions, it's not surprising that some have questioned whether he might be Elayne's biological father. However, Robert Jordan himself addressed this speculation directly, confirming that while Thom and Morgase were lovers, he is not Elayne's father. That role belonged to Thom, a Caerdian noble, and the father of both Elayne and her half-brother, Galad. But biology is not the only path to familial bonds. Thom's relationship with Elayne is characterized by mentorship, affection, and deep-rooted respect. He does not treat her as a child, nor does he patronize her. Instead, he offers her something that many other characters in her life fail to: truth. He does not soften his words, but neither does he seek to dominate her choices. In doing so, he becomes a rare voice of reason in her world, a world often warped by prophecy, politics, and pressure. The political poet. Beyond his personal bond with Elayne, Thom's understanding of Andor and politics gives him lasting relevance. He is one of the few characters who fully understands how power moves behind the scenes, how influence, rumor, and perception shape the destiny of nations. His presence at Elayne's side during key political moments isn't just symbolic, it's strategic. Thom knows how to navigate the halls of power, how to speak to lords and manipulate optics without ever drawing a sword or casting a weave. He teaches Elayne not by lecturing her, but by offering perspective. He guides, not governs. And perhaps most importantly, he reminds her of the importance of stories, how narratives, especially in a world like theirs, often shape reality more than facts ever could. The master of subtlety. While many characters in the Wheel of Time wield power through brute strength, magic, or armies, Thom Merrilin is a master of the quieter, more dangerous game, influence. Behind his gleeman's flair is a razor-sharp mind, honed through decades of courtly intrigue. His experience as Andor's court bard gave him not only access to the nobility, but an understanding of how perception can bend history itself. Songs, rumors, gestures at the right moment. These are the weapons Thom carries like a dagger hidden in a sleeve. This subtle skill becomes invaluable to Elayne as she struggles to claim her right to the Lion Throne. Andor, once a beacon of stability, becomes a fractured realm after Morgase's disappearance. Nobles jockey for power, rivals emerge, alliances shift like sand in the wind. In this chaos, Elayne must not only assert her blood right, but prove her legitimacy to those who see her as young, inexperienced, and politically vulnerable. Enter Thom Merrilin, not as a lord or a general, but as the man who understands how to shape the story being told. He helps Elayne maneuver through treacherous political terrain with grace. He knows when to speak, when to remain silent, and how to let others believe the decisions they make are their own, even when he's guiding them all along. In this way, Thom does not just protect Elayne physically, he shields her politically. He becomes her invisible armor, crafted not of steel, but of knowledge and narrative. The echo of grief. Thom's presence at Elayne's side is not just strategic, it's emotional. Beneath his clever quips and confident bearing lies a man marked by profound loss. The death of his nephew Owen left a scar that has never fully healed. Owen's gentling by the Red Ajah, and his slow, miserable death lit a fire in Thom, one that burned through his belief in the White Tower's infallibility. It's this same fire that fuels his protectiveness toward those he comes to care about. Elayne, in many ways, becomes a second chance. She is not his kin, not by blood, but in protecting her, Thom finds purpose again. His loyalty is not born out of duty. It is born out of a need to preserve what he failed to save once before. There is something sacred in that devotion. He is not a man looking for redemption. He is a man trying to ensure that no more light is lost to darkness. Elayne's rise to power is, for Thom, a battle worth waging, not just for Andor, but for the memory of all that was lost. This emotional undercurrent adds richness to his character. Thom isn't just a mentor or a political operator. He's a man carrying ghosts, and yet he never lets those ghosts drive him into despair. He moves forward, helping Elayne carry the weight of her future, even as he quietly shoulders the burden of his past. A reflection of Andor itself. Elayne and Thom's relationship mirrors the very nature of Andor, a kingdom rooted in tradition but constantly evolving. Thom, with his aged wisdom and old-world manner, represents the legacy of Andor's strength, its commitment to reason, diplomacy, and elegance. Elayne, young and forward-thinking, represents its future, more assertive, more daring, and shaped by war and revolution. Together, they embody a balance. Elayne learns restraint and strategy from Thom. Thom, in turn, finds renewed hope in Elayne's determination and bravery. Their relationship is never hierarchical. Thom never assumes authority over her. He advises, supports, but always respects her agency. That mutual respect is a lesson the nobles of Andor, and perhaps the world, would do well to learn. In a series so often defined by prophecy and fate, this dynamic offers a rare glimpse into how leadership can be learned, not just inherited. Elayne may have been born to rule, but it is through Thom's guidance that she learns how to rule wisely, beyond the throne. As the pattern tightens and the last battle approaches, Thom's role expands beyond Andor and its politics. He becomes, alongside Elayne, a stabilizing figure in a world rapidly unraveling. His travels with Rand al'Thor, his involvement in critical missions, and his deep understanding of the cultures and power structures across nations mark him as more than a background character. He is a thread in the pattern woven tightly, silently, but with unmistakable significance. Thom is one of the few characters who moves easily between realms of commoners and kings. He can perform in an inn or sway a palace court. His adaptability is his greatest strength, and in a world where everything is being broken and reforged, that adaptability is not just useful, it's essential.